Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going to dig into something that I think is really fascinating. We're going to be talking about crop rotation. And before you think, oh, this isn't for me, I'm not a farmer, trust me, this goes way beyond just, planting fields. We're talking about creating a healthier and more sustainable food system. And that's something that affects every single one of us.
Absolutely. And I think what's really interesting about this topic is how we can learn from kind of the past and use that knowledge to create a better future for our food.
I like that, bringing the past into the future. So we've got this document that breaks down everything about crop rotation, and I thought maybe we could start with the why. Why is switching up what you plant each year such a big deal?
Yeah, so for centuries, farmers have noticed that growing the same crop in the same field year after year just wasn't good for the land. It's like you're constantly taking from the soil without giving anything back.
Right, okay, yeah, that makes sense. It's like overdrawing from your bank account. Eventually, you're going to run into some problems.
Exactly. And that's exactly where crop rotation comes in. It helps address those two major challenges. One is pests and diseases, and the other is maintaining the health of the soil.
Okay, so let's dive into those. Let's start with pest control. Our source here mentions the Colorado potato beetle. Now, I'm not a farmer, but I'm guessing those aren't good news.
No, not if you're a potato, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But this is a great example of where crop rotation is like this clever strategy. So let's say you've got a field of potatoes and those beetles, they move in. Well, instead of planting potatoes again the next year, you plant something like alfalfa.
Okay, but why alfalfa? What's so special about that?
Well, alfalfa is not a host for the Colorado potato beetle. So the beetle larvae, they hatch expecting potatoes, and when they can't find their favorite food, their life cycle is totally disrupted. It's like we're figuring out what the pest needs to survive, and then we just take it away.
Ah, so we're outsmarting those pesky bugs. I like it. And by doing that, are we then reducing our need to use pesticides?
Exactly, and that benefits everyone. Right. Fewer chemicals in the environment, fewer chemicals in our food. Plus, you're breaking those pest cycles, so you're building this long-term resilience into the land, meaning it can withstand future challenges even better.
So it's a win-win for both farmers and the environment, really. So we talk about how switching up crops can control those pests, but what about the soil itself? What makes it so important in all of this? So we've talked about how switching up crops can control those pests, but what about the soil itself? What makes it so important in all this?
Yeah, so healthy soil is, well, it's absolutely crucial for healthy plants. Think of it like this. Imagine the soil as a bank account. Every time you grow a crop, you're taking nutrients out, you're making withdrawal. And if you keep planting the same thing year after year, you're not putting anything back in. Eventually, that account's going to be empty.
Okay, so how do we make sure we don't overdraft from that account? How do we, make deposits back into the soil?
That is where cover crops come in. They're like making deposits into our soil bank account. The document specifically mentions legumes and grasses. They act almost like superheroes for our soil.
Cover crops as superheroes. I like that. What makes them so super?
Well, they each have their own special powers. Let's start with legumes like alfalfa, which we talked about earlier. They have this incredible ability to take nitrogen from the air and convert it into a form that other plants can use.
Wait, so they pull nitrogen from the air? How is that even possible?
It's all thanks to this fascinating process called the nitrogen cycle. Legumes have these tiny bacteria that live in their roots, and they've got this symbiotic relationship where the bacteria essentially pull nitrogen from the air and convert it into a form the legume can use. It's like having their own personal fertilizer factories.
That's incredible. So by planting legumes, you're not only feeding the soil, but you're also reducing the need for synthetic fertilizers, right?
Exactly. And those synthetic fertilizers, while they can be helpful, they can sometimes have negative impacts on the environment. They can run off into waterways or even contribute to greenhouse gases. So using legumes is a much more sustainable approach.
Okay, so legumes are the nitrogen providers. What about grasses? What superpowers do they bring to the soil party?
Grasses are amazing for improving soil structure. You see, healthy soil isn't just a solid block. It needs space for air and water to flow. Grasses have these long, fibrous root systems that create channels within the soil, improving drainage and aeration, which helps prevent compaction.
So it's like they're creating a network of tunnels for air and water to move through, kind of like aerating your lawn.
That's a great way to put it. And as those roots decompose, they add organic matter back into the soil, which is like food for all the beneficial microbes living there. It's this incredible web of life beneath our feet.
This is all fascinating stuff, but I'm also thinking, okay, this is great in theory, but how do I put it into practice? I have to admit, it is a little overwhelming thinking about planning out this whole crop rotation thing. Where do you even start?
Yeah, it can seem daunting, but our source actually lays out a really, really clear step-by-step process. It's like having a roadmap for your soil.
Okay, so walk me through it. What's like step one?
First, you got to consider your environment. What kind of climate do you have? What grows well in your region? It's like choosing an outfit. You wouldn't wear a snowsuit in the summer. You need to pick crops that'll thrive in your specific conditions.
Right, right. Work with nature, not against it. What comes after that?
Then you got to think about what people want to buy. What's in demand in your local markets? You don't want to end up with a bumper crop of something that nobody wants to eat.
That's true. Yeah, I never even thought about crop rotation from like a market perspective before.
Hmm.
Okay, so we've got the climate, we've got the market demand. What else?
Then you need to actually look at your fields. What kind of soil do you have? How much sun do they get? It's all about understanding those unique characteristics of your land.
Yeah, it's like getting to know your garden, but on like a much deeper level.
Exactly. And once you've got all that figured out, you can decide how often you want to rotate your crops. Some people do it every year, some every other year. It all depends on what you're growing and, the needs of your soil.
So there's flexibility there. It's not like a one-size-fits-all approach.
Exactly. And then comes the fun part, choosing your cover crops. Remember those handy lists of legume and grass benefits from the document?
Oh, yeah, those were super helpful. It was like a cheat sheet for building healthy soil.
Exactly. Do you need to add nitrogen to your soil? Choose a legume. Want to improve soil structure? Grasses are your best bet.
And the document also mentioned that crop rotation can help with things like preventing erosion and like suppressing weeds.
Right. It's like crop rotation is this multitasking superhero.
Mhm.
Not only does it improve soil health and control pests, but it also helps with those issues too.
Mm.
Plus, by rotating your crops, you're naturally creating a more diverse ecosystem, which can make your land more resilient overall.
So to bring this all back, we're seeing that crop rotation isn't just some like old farming technique. It's a powerful tool for building a more sustainable and resilient food system.
Absolutely. And, this document mentioned this really cool platform at the end that can help with all of this. It takes all those factors we talked about, the climate, the market demand, the soil type, and it helps you create like a customized crop rotation plan.
Wow, that's amazing. It's like having a personal crop rotation assistant. Sounds like there are some incredible resources out there for anyone who wants to learn more about this.
There definitely are. And what's exciting is that even if you're not a farmer, you can still apply these principles. Think about your own garden, even your houseplants. What if we viewed them through the lens of crop rotation?
That's such a great point. Yeah, maybe instead of just repotting that houseplant, we should think about giving it like a different type of neighbor next time. Give it a companion plant that can help, replenish the nutrients that it's using.
Exactly. It's about understanding these natural systems and working with them to create a healthier and more vibrant world, whether it's on a farm or in our own homes.
Well said. This has been such an insightful deep dive. I feel like I've learned so much about crop rotation and its impact on, our food system and the environment. It's definitely given me a lot to think about.
Me too. It's always fascinating to explore these interconnected systems and see how we can kind of learn from the past to create a better future.
That's what it's all about. To all our listeners out there, thanks for joining us on this journey. We hope you learned something new today. Don't forget to check out the show notes for links to the source document and other helpful resources if you want to, dive even deeper into the world of crop rotation. Until next time, keep those brains growing.